if your boss keeps calling you after 6 p.m., and maybe that's time when you should be home. So 9 p.m. you're still receiving phone calls and text messages that you must answer to. One way you can address that is to say, I have a policy of not communicating beyond 6 p.m. Very polite.
You will be told that is your policy.
In our first session, it was a goldmine of information as well as awareness that was touched upon issues on everyday stress. If you missed it, click on the link below to follow us. Today, I warmly welcome you to episode 2 of Take Charge Talk Series 2. We will be talking about workplace stress and relationships. Deadlines, peer pressure, performance expectations, monotony at work, fear of failure, understanding colleagues and bosses, as well as relationships that concern both your work and personal space is something we all experience in our workspaces, as well as at home with relationships. I have my panel here with Dr. Chitai, consultant psychiatrist, Flora, the brand manager, and Vire, of course. Without much ado, I want to begin by asking Vire this question. We all have workplace stress. Men manage stress or bring it home or keep it to themselves?
I think stress in the workplace, I think, is very common because you have expectations you need to meet, you have deadlines, you have to deliver basically. So, and stress comes with that, and also you have other relationships maybe at home that you need to manage, and all this can bring a lot of stress, coupled with maybe financial pressures. So men really do face a lot of stress. And at work, it's not just the tasks you're doing. At work, where you spend most of your day, there are relationships at work, maybe with your bosses, with your colleagues. So there's a lot of interaction that in those relationships that you need to learn how to manage so that you perform at your best. Yeah.
Doctor, what do you have to say on managing stress, bringing it home or keeping it to themselves?
Stress is painful to the person. It brings about discomfort to the individual. So if, as a person, I'm not able to manage the stress, I may want an outlet, if I'm overwhelmed. First of all, I'll try to manage on my own. If I'm overwhelmed, I'll then try to pass it on to maybe what I think is less harmful destination, or object. In psychology, you call it object. Actually, that phenomenon is called displacement. So any bad day at work where you got stressed, and these are day-to-day issues. Most of the time, people go back home and they're either angry, they'll shout at someone at home for no good reason. Those are manifestations of stress that most probably has come from work.
So is it a good thing to bring home stress?
It's a bad thing because it shows that you've been unable to manage it. So if you feel that you have a pattern of experiencing difficulties at work, but when you come home, it's affecting how you relate to your family, it's better to find a safer way of managing it.
And not keeping it to yourself.
Now, keeping it to yourself, again, it will harm you, because keeping it to yourself means that then it may affect your functioning, your physical body. It may predispose you to disease, may predispose you to psychiatric illnesses.
The impacts of stresses.
Things like depression. So again, keeping it to yourself is not the best option.
Flora, how would you deal with workplace stress?
As women, we tend to deal with stress much better because we tend to vent out. For instance, at the first encounter of stress, say at work, I will probably run to the toilet and cry. I'll probably talk to the next person that I meet on the corridor. And in worst case scenarios, you just need a few quiet minutes and you snap back to normal. So I think we tend to, by the time I'm taking it home, it's probably extreme. And requires probably, I need someone else to listen out. So mostly I would say we tend to deal with stress Much better.
Better.
Yes.
But I would call it, we find outlets and they do not find outlets. Is that a better way to put it?
Or you can just say that there are few outlets designed within society for men.
For men.
But you know,
There are few
like,
as compared to women.
stress at the workplace, it's kind of unavoidable because you still have to go there every day. You have to wake up, go face the same issues. If it's workload, if it's there today, tomorrow you'll still find the same workload. So how would I manage without reducing your performance? How would you manage that stress? Because you don't have time maybe to take a break. You still have to do your work. You don't have time to go maybe see a psychologist. You still have to do your work. So how would you manage that? You have to still do your work and you still have to manage the stress at the same time. Yeah. How would you do that?
Of course, you want to think about another activity that you can be able to do that
Engage.
helps you to relax.
So that you disengage from stress and engage here.
Yes, so the generic example is exercise in this case.
We'll come to that soon. But physical and mental effects of unhealthy workplace or relationship stress. We all find it very, very difficult to accept the fact that this is workplace stress. I come and I vent it out on my child or my spouse or somebody who is associated with me. But we cannot go and put, where is the starting point? But is that physical and mental effects? Can you probably throw some light on that?
Yeah, so the physical effects could be that you start experiencing issues like high blood pressure.
Oh, yes.
And if you have high blood pressure, you find that it's now not responding to the medication. Same applies to problems like diabetes. So you find either it's not now being controlled or you now develop things in that direction. For psychological, there are many. So you can be irritable. So you snap at the slightest provocation, unable to sleep. You can have muscular aches. You can have anxiety issues. If you haven't had anxiety before, you could find yourself even experiencing panic attacks. Physically, you can also have, headaches, that are not going away and associated with work. So all these are just a few of the physical and psychological effects.
And also even concentration or focus, that you're not able to give it your 100% or your time enough to complete a job or a...
Absolutely.
That is all mental implications.
Yeah, it's one of the mental implications. So you can't concentrate. If it is meetings, you can't concentrate. And then you forget to do your assignments.
Memory and forgetfulness, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to go one step further and address a very important issue here. Fear of failure in work and relationships. How real is this for men compared to women? I would probably want to first understand his view and then give the expert the...
As men, we have a lot of social expectations. You're expected to be successful. You're expected to live a certain lifestyle, and you fear failing. Maybe you've seen an uncle fail, or you've seen your parent fail, and there's that fear you don't want to end up the same. So you push yourself. Maybe you push yourself at work. You push yourself in business. That ambition. So the fear of failure is, I think, it's part of being a man. That's what drives us to want to achieve more, to provide better for your family. That fear, you don't want to think, because you're always thinking, where will I end up? You're always looking to the future and thinking, where will I end up? I want to live in a certain estate. I want to drive a certain car. So that comes with stresses, because to achieve those things, you have to be performing at work. Your business has to be doing well. So it gives you a lot of pressure. And also that comes with fear. Pressure comes with fear.
And I also like the fact that he mentions that it's a sort of a driver also. So it has a little bit of tinge of positivity in it. But what is your view, Doctor?
Yeah, so obviously, again, going back to history, there were roles that men were expected to play. And it's a good thing. And women were expected to play different roles. So even in societies, you find a long time ago, men were hunters, maybe women a bit of gathering, or staying at home. So traditionally or historically, these roles were assigned as a form of division of labor, that the man will look for food and protect the family and the society at large from external insults. So these things are part of who we are. And women, now there's a lot of progress, but a long time ago, they were just expected to reproduce, you know. So that was a the most serious role. The most important for the society. So now with the changes that are happening, we still, of course, when we are growing up, I don't know what girls are told, but boys are told that, you know, take your studies seriously so that you can provide for your family in future.
So it has been ingrained that fear of failure comes alongside growing up. So
Yes. I don't know what girls are told when growing up, but probably it could be something to the line of you becoming a good wife.
yes,
someone.
nurture and care and love. And
Not
I
anymore
guess.
towards just being a good wife. I think there's a lot of women empowerment nowadays, but
Yes.
of course, the pressure is a little more on men than it is for women. We can be forgiven for failing to some extent, as compared to how it will be perceived if a man fails.
It reflects
So,
worse
I-
on men than women.
Yeah. And so the sociologists, you know, who have investigated men and women have come up with one observation that if I was to have Bwire, if I can use an example, you know, given the privilege, you know, of staying at home and your wife provides everything, goes to work,
you
you'll
like
be
it?
unhappy.
I will not accept.
Well, energetically, men are built for going out there and, you know, working hard. So I think when you're built for that purpose, I don't think you will enjoy that role of playing the house husband or whatever we call them these days. Yeah, so I would love to see a house husband.
I don't think it's very common, I think, in the Africa culture, because if you become a house husband and your wife is going out, I think the way society looks at you, they won't look at you very positively.
Positively. So
They'll
it's
call you a
taken
bum,
negatively.
you are lazy, you're not achieving it, your woman is looking after you, you will feel disrespected and maybe undermined. So that
contrasted
man,
with the fact that women would rather be in the workplace and nurture, but the men cannot be in the space where women
the society
actually
will not accept for you to be.
Yeah, true. And probably I definitely, in a society like ours, which is modernizing very fast or westernizing very fast, they're definitely there, but obviously they may not be in the open. And when they're asked by their family members, they could lie about what they do.
can master.
And no woman is proud to be associated with such kind of a man, maybe.
Coming to another topic, toxic relationships. We all have them, the nagging ones. We get angered and flustered and frustrated with having to deal with them on an everyday basis, whether it is at workplace or whether it is in a personal space that we live in. I want to throw this question at Bwire. How do you see such toxic relationship and how do you deal with it yourself?
You know, toxic relationship, I think, in my opinion, come up because we all have different personalities and you spend a lot of time at work. So that interaction cannot be avoided. Let's say you have a disagreement with an accountant. You still have to go.
Back to the...
You can't avoid them because it's the workplace and that's their responsibility. You still have to go deal with them. So how do you deal with that person to keep it professional and not let the underlying issues bubble up? Yeah.
And Doctor, what do you think of the physiological factors of what toxic relationships can do to the human being as a whole?
Toxic relationships have some element of abuse in them or some element of exploitation. Crossing of boundaries, for example, is one of the common things in such relationships. So first, it's important for people to identify that now this is a toxic relationship because this boundary is being crossed or I'm being exploited in this way. A lot of times in common language on the streets, people use the word narcissism to describe...
it is thrown loosely actually these days.
Thrown very loosely. And sometimes when something is everywhere, it's nowhere.
Yes.
And we can end up thinking it's normal, So, yeah, but it's very important to be able to identify this type of relationships because, again, it just goes back to be a contributor of chronic stress in the individual. So the way someone will respond to a situation of a toxic relationship will be a chronic stress response. And obviously, we know the impact that can have on our, heart, on our blood pressure, on our control of sugar, you know, and the psychological effects
Tell
that
me, how
can
is
lead to depression.
And even anxiety and things like that.
Yes.
I'm beginning to think that compromising in a relationship can be one of the ways in which you're actually also building stress without you realizing. You can call it compromise, but you having to shut down, or you having to not bring it up or discuss or healthily deal with it. So
like Bwire said before, that you know, you are in this workplace, and the difference you are having is with the finance boss, who is who can play around with your salary. You don't want to push too much.
The buttons are just there, so let me not.
Or you know, or the boss and so on. So
it's very stressful, isn't it, for the mind to having to be engaged in that manner and say, I have to speak this, or I have to not do this, and I have to say the right words. And
So it's a whole thing that people have to learn. How can I politely, the polite way of saying it, so that you don't offend, but you also stand up for yourself. So there are ways in which people can can give, you can give out your point of view in a very polite way. Yeah, there are certain terminologies that you can use. For example, let me give you an example. That if your boss keeps calling you after 6 p.m. and maybe that's time when you should be home. So 9 p.m. you're still receiving phone calls and text messages that you must answer to. One way you can address that is to say, I have a policy of not communicating beyond 6 p.m. Very polite.
You will be told that is your policy. That is your...
It's for business people who can afford to lose a business and catch over it tomorrow morning.
Yes.
But what about...
But that's just one of the ways. Another way is to advocate for each other. Yeah, so it's easier to stand up for someone sometimes than yourself. So people should learn.
Valuable advice. You have good friends and company around you. Even in the workplace, I think it can be healthily dealt with.
Yes.
Things like toxic relationships can actually, if you have someone supportive, I think that adds so much more value to your everyday going back there and having to face the same.
Also, simply giving options.
Exactly.
Give options to the boss. Instead of this,
for example, if you have
can do this or this.
If you have an issue maybe with one particular person, and that person maybe has someone who's close to them at the office, maybe you can approach that person and say, I'm having, so because they know them maybe better or they're closer to them, you can ask them, maybe I'm having this issue, what would you advise? Maybe they can give you a tips, maybe they don't like this. I think that could
deal with the stress in whatever the manner at workplace, with especially toxic relationships. As you rightly said, I think it can go to a chronic stress level and we don't want that to happen. Absolutely. My next question now tumbles down to Bwire as well. How to handle stress, deadlines and procrastination, and also affecting performance and results in more stress. So these are already stressful, but then it's a cycle that actually carries on.
I think at work we face a lot of pressure to meet deadlines and expectations, because deadlines will always be there, and quality of work, a certain quality of work is also deliverables is expected. So that comes with a lot of pressure. And I think when you're maybe first starting out as an employee, when you're a young employee, I think it becomes a big issue because you don't know how to manage. But I think as your career goes on, you get more experience, you learn how to deal with it. And I think one of the ways is opening up to your supervisor and being candid. You say this is manageable and this is not manageable, so that you discuss on the deliverables instead of just accepting what is you're told your deliverables. Negotiation, what I'm trying to say, you need to learn how to negotiate so that you align what is expected of you and what you can deliver. Sometimes the mismatch of what you can deliver and what is expected of you, that brings a lot of pressure. That's why people are staying past midnight trying to complete, and that also comes with new pressures, because you can stay up till past midnight, but in the morning you still have to show up at the office. You get more work, so it's a cycle that can lead someone down the wrong path of depression. So I think having open communication and negotiation, that negotiation skill, I think, is important.
Yeah. And Doctor, I want to throw this also at you, because when performance is affected, it is stressful. And again, it's a whole cycle. Now, what does that do to you as a person when you are emotionally entangled in such for a long time? As I think in the psychological perspective, staying in stress in emotional levels also tamper with a lot of physical and mental well-being. So what's your take on that?
It's obviously a difficult position to be in, because on the one hand, many people love to work. Actually, work is essential.
Sometimes some of them thrive.
Yes. No one wants to be idle. Everyone wants to be productive.
Correct.
So generally, these challenges that arise have some causes. Maybe the assignments that someone is being given, they don't have the full expertise, and maybe they just need some additional support. And so it's good, it's important to look at the subtle signs of something like passive aggression.
Yes, absolutely.
At
You
the
hit the
workplace.
nail on the head, and I was actually coming to that.
Yes, because eventually you start being slow. You come
Sort
to
of
the
like a
meetings
strike
late.
that you take with-
Even procrastination can be a sign of passive aggression.
And perfectionism
Yeah.
also creates procrastination.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
one of the lead stories now going on in the latest Western magazines.
Yes.
They say that perfectionism is a myth, and how it actually leads to procrastination. So yes, you're so right.
Exactly.
Passive aggression.
Because you
important
become so
factors.
anxious that you want to do it in the best way possible.
And it can actually get to you and tamper with your work. I mean, you might just not get perfect, and that is not absolutely. Is procrastination actually a good thing? Sometimes we have 10 things on our list of things to do, and we probably barely accomplish only a few out of the 10 things that we have taken upon ourselves to complete. And do I feel stressed about it? Or do I have to say that I have done it all, doesn't matter, and procrastination is okay?
So with regard to issues of procrastinating, mistakes will happen as human beings. So no one has never ever procrastinated. Every one of us has, and we do quite often. You have some presentation to make, you wait until it's 2 days, then you start rushing up and down to look for the information. When you had some 3 weeks, and you had time.
Had time.
Yeah, you had time. So really, procrastination is also a habit, that someone can form and just develop into their character and personality. But the good news is that something that is learned can also be unlearned. So procrastination depends on the person's personality, as well. So it can either be caused by your personality, or it can become part of your personality, depending on how often, because it's comforting. It's one of those comforting things.
Yes.
I'll do it later. Keep it on the side.
Behavior.
It's a learned behavior in some certain cases, but also it can be part of your personality. For instance, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, where someone is obsessed about rules, guideline, how to do it right. They are totally obsessed about rules more than anything else, about order. Everything must be very orderly, and it must go in a certain way. So such a person, when you give them work, their first worry is that will it come out perfect? So if they have 1 week to do the work, they'll worry for 5 days.
And for 2 days,
They'll be left with only 2 days to actually do the work, and that can be harmful. So these are things that can be unlearned, so that people can be more effective.
Sometimes in my experience, what makes me procrastinate is maybe you have a tough decision to make and you're trying to put it off and put it off. You don't really want to make that decision. Maybe it's for me, I'm a designer. So usually it's maybe when you're making designs, maybe for a marketing campaign, you have to choose images, you have to write content. Even for writers, making that decision on what direction you have to take, you always putting it off. Maybe you have 5 options, and you are failing to decide on which option you want to take. And then when it comes to 2 days, to go, that is when you have to make a decision. You are forced to make a decision. So even the decision you make, you're always second guessing yourself. So I think that is also, when you talk about perfectionism, I think that can lead to procrastination, and that also brings a lot of stress, because you know, when you're trying to do things in the last minute, that brings a lot of stress and pressure.
And perhaps in such a situation, that's where a mentor may come in to help you. I mean, walking through life alone can also be challenging. It's very challenging. So
I'm reminded of this proverb where we are always taught to, in the earlier years of our life, problems solve themselves. So we probably take a back seat and say, maybe the presentation will happen on its own. I mean, thank you for that. It's a delightful insight into, these are actuals, and this happens, as you rightly said, most of us procrastinate. I think there's none that does not. So coming to moods affecting concentration, focus and outputs, how do people tackle it without getting stressed? Like, if I don't have the mood to probably do it, is it a psychological thing, or is it a mental or an emotional? Where does it lie?
Lacking the mood, and maybe when you lack the mood, most likely you lack the drive to tackle the challenge ahead. So it's obviously a psychological issue. So it may not necessarily be a problem. Obviously, it can become a problem where it's now affecting your productivity, because different tasks may come with different requirements. So there may be one you feel I'm competent to do, you'll surge forward with enthusiasm. Another one, you just accepted because it's coming from above. So that one you'll go with a little bit of a low mood. You'll approach it with a low mood. Students, for instance, students when they're doing their thesis for masters, there's always this aspect of getting corrections. So you've done, your work, so on, then you send it to a committee or the ethical committee, and then it comes back with a lot of corrections. Usually everybody, even if it's your supervisor, you get depressed for about 1 week. Before even you start tackling anything, you put that thesis aside. So sometimes that's how we respond to things that make us.
It's a natural response.
It is. This low mood. It's telling you something. If it's persistent, you may want to really think about maybe if you are in the right place, or if there's a place you can work. Your output can be better, because definitely if you are in a low mood, that your concentration will be poor.
I would love to add on here, in the nutrition side of perspectives, we believe that foods can actually elevate moods. And I want to bring to the attention of viewers as well as to this panel that we have something called mood foods, things that can actually help you elevate your endorphins, and naturally when you eat them in plenty. Things like proteins, that is found in beans and peas and lentils, etc., seeds, and omegas, the good brain foods actually elevate moods and keep us happy. And also looking at exercise as a way to boost moods. I know the oxygen levels in the brain can actually help to elevate the circulation, and as well as build better perspectives. So, and
there are also some actions that can help elevate someone's mood, like just helping someone.
Absolutely.
If you help someone in the morning, you'll feel good the whole day.
Exactly. That's why charity is regarded as one of the best ways.
So would you consider mood? Mood, is it something that is internal to you that you control, or is mood influenced by your surroundings or others' actions? What would?
Yes, so both. There's interaction between your biology and the environment that you are in. So and low mood is often a response to a negative stimulus in the environment, or negative conditions where you are. So both. However, The internal one, controlling is a bit hard. Like we can't change our genes overnight, you know. So some people, because of your genetic makeup, you are more likely to be moody most of the time.
Okay.
But for everybody, something exciting in your environment should lead to some happiness, some feeling of happiness.
Because I've noticed there are people who are very hyper, very active,
Yes,
and
yes.
people, some
So
others
they're enjoying good genetics.
Doctor, if I may just ask a question.
Yeah.
In our previous episode, you talked about the stress hormone going very high. Can that also affect mood when it's very high?
Yes, definitely. One of the things that happens, for instance, is basically that non-essential functions of the body are shut out. Yeah. So what's non-essential in the biological sense? Reproduction, for instance. So you will not be able to enjoy, activities around reproductive sex. You'll not be able to enjoy. Digestion is shut off because it's non-essential. It's essential, yes, but in that instance, when you are stressed, your body is communicated to that this is non-essential. So your appetite goes down.
Actually, that's probably why we call the gut as the second brain.
Yes.
So yeah, it actually shuts down.
Yeah, it shuts down. Then you can now see the effect of reduced nutrients on your brain,
Exactly.
and then your mood will go down.
Any drugs or self-help solutions that can actually help elevate, or is there anything that you would want to talk about on that side?
Yeah. So generally, we don't treat stress because stress is not a mental disorder.
Yeah, of course.
Stress is what we go through every day. Like no human being, unless if you sleep the whole day, no human being goes through a day without some stressful event or several of them. So being stressed is not a disease, but it's a condition. Situational issues lead to stress, and the best way is to learn how to cope. So everyone should learn some coping mechanisms. Things like mindfulness, breathing exercises. Just doing normal physical exercises can help us cope. The foods you're talking about. So these are the best coping mechanisms. If these things are not working, and you come to the doctor, then we could prescribe something, to help you, because then we'll be thinking that maybe you have mild depression.
Yes, it's easily mistaken for depression. So mood and low moods and depression.
So there could be something we can do. If the issue is that your sleep is totally affected, there can be some short-term sleeping, to correct that. Yeah, but there are no, common over-the-counter medications that are recommended for treatment of, stressful issues. Yeah.
Flora, I would like for you to probably throw some light on how probably adaptogens can help elevate mood, because I've heard a lot about adaptogens coming into play for especially low moods and mood enhancing properties.
Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, adaptogens are substances that help your body adapt to stressful conditions. So generally they work by reducing the stress hormone while improving the feel-good hormones. So definitely, like we said earlier, if you lower the stress hormones, then definitely, like the doctor has said, then your mood definitely goes up. It picks up naturally. Yes. So that's how adaptogens can come in to help one deal with mood. And of course, selecting a multivitamin supplement that has adaptogens in it will help one deal with such stressful conditions in a much better way and help their mood become better. Even at workplace and at home.
Wow, doctor, I have a very intriguing question to ask of you. According to you, you are a psychiatrist, and I believe and I think that sometimes workplaces need to be designed in probably a certain way, or the styles of working conditions need to be in a certain way, so that we don't feel the stress when we are out there. So what is an ideal or a mental friendly, if I can say, healthily friendly atmosphere of a workplace? Like, what is a design by its very nature?
So if I was to design a perfect work environment for mental health.
Yes, guys, all of you listen up.
Number one, it should be an environment where those who are there are mental health literate.
Literate.
They have enough information about mental health that can come through sensitization of the managers of that place, or trainings and educational forums for the staff. So such a place will, by its design, be mental health friendly. there can be even small posters here and there about aspects of mental health, demystifying the myths about mental health and so on. Even just saying that now you are entering a mental health friendly zone.
It does something.
A huge banner begins.
So it will automatically boost my energy and say, I think I'm in the right place.
It's very safe. This is a safe space. Yeah. So that, and then a place where people who unfortunately suffer from mental illnesses are not discriminated, they are not dismissed, they are accommodated within that workplace. When they go for treatment and come back, they are accepted back. And where we look at their challenges as mental health challenges rather than just behavioral issues. Something as common and pervasive as alcohol use disorder is mostly considered a behavioral issue, and we try to punish these fellows. You're drinking too much. Just stop it. Not realizing that in that case, this person has lost control.
So we have confidence as well as self-esteem.
Yes. So my perfect workplace for mental health should be empathetic to people who are suffering from mental disorders, for the interest of men. This is basically for the interest of men. I believe also women.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things that stress men is that you have bosses. Men are not used to being bossed.
They're not used to be told what to do.
So just by you being there and being commanded to go here and come here, it stresses you. So one thing we can do in workplaces to reduce that is to create multiple hierarchies in the workplace. What does that mean? Create other situations where Bwire feels like he's the boss. Like in a football, create some football tournaments, where he feels good. And that always comes out in team building activities.
Exactly.
Let us have other forums outside normal work where someone who is less feels more.
Okay.
Anyone in HR needs to consult us on this in order to get performance and results in their companies. No, but absolutely a brilliant explanation for how an environment should.
Can we
really
take
look
that
like.
poster home as well?
As well?
You're
Yes.
entering
Thank you for mentioning that.
Friendly home.
I'd like to ask, maybe if a work colleague went through a traumatic experience, how should the other people at the workplace
How can they step in, maybe to try and
interact
help
with that
and
person? I
interact?
think,
Yes. This person has gone through a situation and they have now come back. Let's treat them normally, unless if they want to be treated differently. Unless they have requested for a different job deployment, let's let them continue doing what they were doing. Interact with them the way you interact with me after I'm admitted for malaria at some hospital. And should we disagree with you, because of a work-related issue, don't quickly ascribe the cause to the mental illness.
Labeling.
This guy was even treated recently. This is why, because people always disagree, but you don't ascribe mental illness. So that's how we should. And if they need someone to speak
That's
to,
a very good point.
be there.
Is it okay to ask them directly how they feel? Do you think it's okay?
Yeah, there's really nothing wrong, to just come and say you've been away for some time. I hope you're feeling okay now.
And I think it will do a lot to even boost their confidence levels and get back to normalcy even faster. I can't wait to get onto the rapid fire because we're going to have some seriously interesting moments, especially after the discussions that we've had. Are you ready?
Yes, we are.
Great.
Yeah.
When overwhelmed with work, will you go on a holiday or address it with your boss? Viray, this starts with you.
Holiday, maybe I'll turn to something accessible. Maybe I'll turn to maybe a drink, alcohol or a cigarette or something to relieve that, give me a quick pick-me-up. But addressing the boss, I think I'll be quite shy to do that, I think. Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Ideally, holidays are good, very good. So plan to go for a holiday, but don't go, because when you go, it will be very expensive. And then now address with the boss.
Thank you. Nora, what would you do? Just as a curious.
I think I'll do anything, but addressing with the boss will be the last thing in my mind.
Okay. Peers as friends or keep it professional?
At work, I think, because you're spending so much time together, you always end up maybe creating some friendships and even sometimes a relationship. So, but at work, for myself, I would prefer staying as peers.
What is your take on that, Doctor?
My personal take is to stay professional.
Professional. Thank you very much. Stress at work. Who would you rather talk to? Your HR, your line manager, your peer, your spouse, your friend, or family?
I think the first outlet is usually a family, then a friend at work. By the time you're approaching the line manager, it's something that is really stressed you maybe over months. So that's when you, but the first option is usually complain to your friend or your family. Then when it gets bad, that's when you...
And complaining is healthy, I'm sure, because that also is like a vent out. Doctor, what is your take on that?
I do agree. A friend, maybe with some, some expertise in that kind of work, may help.
Is it healthy to bring office work home?
Sometimes you can't avoid it, because like myself, I'm in the creative industry. You have deadlines you have to do, so you, after finishing your work at the office, you carry it home, you carry your laptop home, get home and open it and continue working. So you can't avoid, and that sometimes brings a lot of issues at home. So it's usually best to the work pressure, so you can't avoid it.
Is it good to bring work home, Doctor?
Not healthy.
Not healthy.
At all.
At all.
When you bring work at home, you still time that is meant to help you bond with your family and address and even sleep.
Even
yes,
rest,
of course. On important things that you need to physically and mentally take care of when you are not at work.
Time to recharge.
Time to recharge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Gossip, healthy or damaging? A very interesting one here.
I don't know if men gossip, but I think, at work, there's usually that light gossip. This one did this, how much is that one? And there's that light gossip, I think, that you can't avoid, because you're spending so much time together. When you go out for lunch, there must be something you're talking about. So gossip, you can't avoid.
All the gossip I hear from men are all about football.
What you did over the weekend. But
There's a common saying that men are the worst gossip.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe doctor can throw some light on that.
The trouble with gossip has its function, obviously, to help people organize in society. But the unfortunate thing is that hardly do you find two people gossiping positively about someone.
so nice.
I wish we can balance.
There's a very small element of nice gossip. Like I can say, have you seen Bira? He's combed his hair today.
Very smart.
Very smart. But I don't want to tell you that. But most of the time, I think it's negative.
It's negative, yes. Sadly, that is the sad part of gossip. Wait for relationship issues to get better, or see an expert, or walk out. What would men choose most?
Walk out, I think that is because it's the easiest, because it's like avoiding the problem. So you just walk out. We don't have that really tradition of maybe going for couples counseling or something. So you just give up
It's an
easy.
extremist attitude of walking out. Okay, let's hear the doctor out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an ideal answer to that, but no.
There is no ideal answer.
There's really no, ideal answer. I'll obviously, as an expert, talk about you coming to see me as the expert.
No,
I want you to come. But
affects
men, some will just wait.
Until
They just watch and wait.
Maybe I can say from a woman's perspective, we don't expect men to walk out. We want them to stay and talk it out.
Yes.
Which is something that is difficult. So
But as we like avoiding problems, so
Some problems are solved by time. Simply, play for time.
on its own. While we want to talk about it.
Healthy relationships versus being in control. What would men rather choose?
I think healthy relationships are better, and for that maybe you have to give up some control. For men it's difficult, but for a healthy relationship maybe you have to watch that soap opera you don't want to watch. Yeah.
But doctor, what do you think? Do men feel that they have to be in control, or they would rather go for healthier relationships? The modern man is what I'm talking about.
To be honest, the way you phrase that question, you think about healthy relationship. but obviously they're not always healthy. These
Yeah, it's
relationships.
constantly.
People just stay.
So most of the time, people are comparing unhealthy relationships and control, or relationship with some form of issues, because almost all have some issues. So a lot of times they want to do the control thing. Yeah.
Sadly,
But of course, a healthy relationship is what everyone needs. Yeah.
fair enough. Separating from partner, emotional damage to men, or is it macho?
I think for men, once you face a breakup, you have that macho feeling. It's like you are the one who left. Maybe she was not good enough. You always find a way to convince yourself that it was the other partner's fault. Even for women, I think you always find a way of blaming the other person. So I think for men, since you are macho, even if you are hurt, you just have to pretend and move on.
Society has laid such hard rules on them that they have to be something out of,
Even if it's hurting.
What is your take on that? Doctor?
Some research says, that men hurt less from separation than women because of the emotional toll that separation usually has on the women. But the truth is, obviously, everyone hurts. But what I know about men is that they'll definitely,
Emotionally disconnect easily.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I also read a fact that was researched well and said that men will be the first ones in a relationship to come and admit and say, I love you. It will never be the
Kenyan
women.
men.
Because women are very scared of getting their hearts broken. And this probably relates very well to the fact that what you're actually mentioning, that men will not feel so emotionally damaged when they separate. So yeah, it adds up. The next question is, men live in demanding relationships because of... Complete that sentence for me, Bure.
I'll say social pressure. There are so many expectations, so I think that comes with that pressure. Yeah.
Doctor, what do you think? Men live in demanding relationships because of...
Status, as he says.
Yeah.
Exactly. So men think alike.
Interesting.
Isn't it? Very interesting for women to watch, because I think it all adds up and gives us a chance to really better understand men from their perspectives. This forum, I think, is really coming up with that. Mood enhancer, self-help, stimulants or adaptogens?
For me, I think the easiest to reach for is a stimulant. So I resort to something that I drink, a cigarette or something. So it's very easy and comfortable to reach for a stimulant, I think.
Doctor, what's your take on a stimulant against adaptogens?
Well, I will really prefer to have more information about the adaptogen. If it is non-addictive, then it sounds safer. If it's just vitamins, and the like, and it's non-addictive, then it's safer than a stimulant.
Yeah, and the stimulants can be just a pick me up at that time and then, drop you.
You're not solving the real problem, yeah.
So, yeah, thank you. So, wrapping up this session, this has been invaluable. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Vire, as well as, of course, Flora, who's been here. I believe that in lieu of what we have heard today, keeping workplace relationships professional is key, and keeping your own personal relationships, caring for their well-being, both emotionally and mentally, is very, very important. That's the outcome that I have had here. I would like to now hand over the floor to Flora.
So thank you, Rama. Thank you, everyone, once again. Again, this is a very wonderful session. I am also getting to learn a lot, especially about the needs for men, and particularly in the workplace, at home, and how men think in general. And a challenge to all of you is that how can we make the workplace a better environment, and even at home, how can we make them safe spaces for mental health? Just maybe to highlight on adaptogens and their role. The good thing is adaptogens are non-addictive, unlike stimulants like caffeine, which can become addictive. So they are safer alternatives when you need the pickup that you need to stay energetic, healthy, and alert throughout the day, and help you cope with stress better at home and at work. Thank you again for the overwhelming support. Since our last episode, we've had a lot of overwhelming support, a lot of comments on the comment section. And for those who took the stress test, we hope that now you understand your situation better, and you are going to take the necessary help and take charge of your life. Once again, I would like to request those who have not had a chance to click on the link on the description to kindly do so, It will take you to a very easy to answer questionnaire with just a few questions that in less than 5 minutes can help you understand your mental health and therefore help you take charge of your life.
Thank you, Flora, for that. I am so intrigued and I want to go to the website and already take my stress test and see what my personal scores are. And I know you've been mentioning this is mainly for men, but I'm sure it doesn't harm me as a woman too to take that test and
Absolutely.
see where I am.
Yes, definitely.
And coming to our viewers, the next episode is on a very hot topic that is based on stress in your bedrooms. I hope you're intrigued enough to come and watch us when we deliver this absolutely thrilling talk. And until then, take charge. Remember, change starts with you.